Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Eva. Hello.
Hello.
Eva, we can hear you. We can hear you, and you can start the session. Thank you, everyone, for being here for this third webinar of Twin for Merit.
Welcome, everybody. But I think I need also permit from your side to share my screen and also my camera if it is possible. Okay.
I think you are able
now
to share your
working.
camera also, and you can
Yes,
present
camera is
also.
on. Thank you. But I think I cannot share my screen.
You are allowed to share it as a presenter.
Really?
Yeah,
I
maybe.
don't have.
Did you use a second account?
Yes. Now, yes. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let me see where it is. Okay, here we are. Now you can see my screen.
Yes, thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Good morning for the Twin for Merit perspective and partners. My name is Eva Mendez, and you know that I'm a faculty member in the University Carlos III of Madrid in the Library and Information Science Department. And I'm currently the head of the research team, Open Science Lab, that what we do is meta research for open science. And of course, the topic that we are going to address today is very much on the core of the open science, and it's very much on the core of research assessment. We are going to talk about open peer review, and I put open in brackets because we are going to talk firstly on peer review as the main value of research assessment from years and years of research evaluation and from years and years on research publication. And also, I was in the CoARA steering board membership until the end of last year, and also was chair of the Open Science Policy Platform. So all the topics that we are going to address today are at the very core of my own work and on my own research and on my own core, because I'm thinking all these issues all the time. So let me go to what I thought when we were preparing this topic within the Twin for Merit project. I was thinking on the peer review as one of the values of the research assessment from all the core publication bodies in the publishers. Also, we can find peer review in conferences. We can find peer review in all our the research assessment. But before to go through the peer review and open peer review as one of the alternatives in the current scenario for research assessment, I want to go back to the problem, what I call the metaphor of the naked emperor, why we think that we have to change the way we evaluate science, and what is the main issues that the current system, not only peer review, but the current system of publication, the current system of research assessment is just letting us to have a very compromised environment and a very unsustainable model for publication. And also I want to just chime in CoARA, because I'm sure that you are very much aware of that. I know that Cyprus is very active on this, particularly your university is leading the some of
we can't hear you well, dear Eva. So if you can please repeat your last sentences, please.
Sorry, what is the problem? Connectivity, or do you the sound?
The sound. We lost your sound for a few minutes, for a few seconds.
Should I put my camera off? That sometimes works better, the quality of the sound?
Yeah, maybe. Thank you.
Because I'm just in pure Wi-Fi. and I'm not sure. Can you hear me well now?
Yes, yes.
Can you? Okay. So if there is some issue, please just tell me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I was telling you also that I was thinking on have a reflection why we are here in CoARA and why we are trying to move a bit forward. Because if you think about CoARA, CoARA is the coalition for the advancement of research reform. It's not very disruptive. We are just very happy if you can advance a bit on the reform. But why we are in CoARA, coming from open science, and why CoARA will let us go back to open science. They are two movements that they really need each other. And also, it was recently in the debate of the CWTS, Ludo Wortmann, who is one of the main activists in the Barcelona Declaration, he was saying recently that the assessment reform should be aligned with the publication reform. It's something that should happen. And that's why the peer review is at the core of all these challenges that we are facing now. And also, at the end, I would like to just share with you some ideas for a long journey for the responsible research assessment, where I think the open peer review is absolutely a must. But let's go to the peer review concept. This is a very funny cartoon that reflects perfectly how it is the research life. The researchers go through publication. The target of all our research so far has been getting a paper accepted. We don't care about data. We don't care about opening resources. We want to have the paper accepted because a paper accepted is our career development, is our individual assessment, is our success in academia. So this is always the long path to get accepted, and how we are struggling in different initiatives to go through this process. But if we think about why peer review matters, we have to agree upon that is the fundamental of scholarly validation. It ensures rigor, credibility, and hopefully quality control. Also, it supposes that the peer review and the olden times when it was established for publications evaluation, it was at the core of getting an academic dialogue. The authors and reviewers get a constructive dialogue. And this has been evolved to not a very creative dialogue, but assertive dialogue from part of the author to get published. So I was in a conversation with a colleague last week, and we say, well, getting published is at the end a question of stamina. The more you convince the reviewer, the better you succeed. But the idea is to have a clear academic dialogue. An open peer review is aimed to rescue this academic dialogue and publicly show up this academic dialogue. And also the peer review matters because it's supposed that build trust in the research ecosystem. This is the core business of why peer review matters in publication, but also peer review is the core of the research assessment because it is the main mechanism to evaluate proposals, publications, individuals, conferences. It is what we base everything. And also it's beyond metrics because usually the peer review is absolutely a qualitative judgment of a scholarly contribution. The problem is that when it comes to evaluate people, the qualitative judgment is completely based on the quantitative indicators. So this is again losing the essence of the research assessment and the peer review essence, because it's supposed that qualitative judge people or contributions or conferences or whatever. Also, it is a way of inspiring expert-informed and contextualized assessment. It's supposed that the journals themselves, the publishers, they cannot publish if they don't have the experts on board. And also, it means that you are evaluating a person in the context of something that is happening. And of course, the peer review is one of the main principles of responsible research assessment that is in the inner or in the essence of CoARA and the DORA declaration. So this is something that we have to bear in mind, that peer review is the thing that really qualifies science in any context. If we think about peer review, when we start working in CoARA, and peer review was one of the values, people get just crazy and say, no, it is unsustainable. We cannot evaluate individuals based on reading the contributions and evaluate every single publication. And I say, excuse me, stop for 1 minute. Think about this. Instead of reviewing publications for free for the publishers with a profit endeavor, you can only do the peer review for the benefit of the system, not for the benefit of the journal. So peer review is still a very valuable thing to do to evaluate institutions and to evaluate individuals. But we have to think about when we are going to do the peer review and for who. Because it turns out that every single researcher, I don't do anymore. I don't do any review, any peer review for any for-profit journal. This is a principle that I will not do it. And actually, it's very funny because I received an invitation for evaluating a publication in, I think it was a Springer. And I say, well, how much are you going to pay me for doing this peer review? Because if you are for profit organization, if you are charging £3,000 to the author to publish this, and I'm going to legitimize the quality of the paper based on my expert view, you have to pay me because you are doing for profit. And guess what? Springer answered me. They told me, no, but this is included in your academic life. It's supposed that you as an academic, you have to do peer review. And I say to them, I'm so sorry, in my contract as a public servant in a public university in the south of Europe, there is nothing in my contract that says that one of my obligations is do the review for for-profit publishers. And they wrote me back, of course, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we will ask another academic to do this. If all the academics, we stop doing peer review for free to the profit organizations, and we put all our efforts on doing peer review for our own system to qualify and to underline the values of the research system, we will change a lot of things. But still, we have to discuss a lot of things. The current challenges, on top of that, we do it for free and all these things that you know, the current challenges are much more. The close peer review that we are most of the publications, we will see some examples after the presentation. In the current closed system, the close peer review, lack of transparency and consistency. It happened that many times the author, even if it is blind review, knows who is reviewing, and it is just a question of negotiation. And it's not a transparency and academic-based procedure. It is based on a negotiation that lacks consistency and transparency. Also, there is another big issue and another big challenge, which is the reviewer overload. We cannot review as much things as we have. We have to review presentations. We have to review projects. I was CoARA call for the cascading grants. I was reviewing a thesis dissertation. I was reviewing the master paper that was in the committee for my students. We are in a permanent over reviewing roles that we have as academics and scientists, lack of recognition. If you go to the context of evaluation, if I get a paper accepted, this guy will get the credit. But all these people working in between, they don't get the credit. So it's an important issue about lack of recognition. If we give points, or if we recognize, or even if we, what I was telling you in the example that I put you before, if it is a kind of recognition, all motivated to do good reviews. Okay, so there are also, when there is a close review, a lot of potential biases. People can see the of institution and they can be against that affiliation. People can have biases based on gender, nationality, and this is currently every day's question. And also in the peer review, there is, again, an over-reliance on the journal impact factor and the journal prestige. If people do peer review and they don't have time to review and integrate peer review, will only look at the journal impact. For example, I was having yesterday a meeting with the Spanish, the director of the Spanish evaluation, and she told me, well, even if we are what people don't have time and don't have the tools to evaluate individuals differently by the number, quantify the number of applications in highly prestige journals. So it is so in the ADN of research that is absolutely a big problem to rely on journal impact factor indicators. And also peer review is absolutely for science quality to evolve. If we don't have peer review, we are not qualifying research sufficiently, so people will not rely on the system. So it is a crucial issue, plenty of challenges. And also, if you remember my mushroom, which is the most famous contribution that I have to open science, we have here the mushroom of open science. With open science, I always put the responsible research and innovation, which is the land or the soil where it has to flourish this open science. But underneath, we have to think about that the main issue to make open science happen is to have the reward system. And the reward system is based on changing the metrics that we do. I put here Almetrics, but it's not only Almetrics, it's new indicators and new ways to evaluate not only papers, but new ways to evaluate contributions. The problem is that if we don't have infrastructures that allows us to evaluate data, people will rely on the infrastructures and the metadata that they have to evaluate publications. It's not only about making indicators, it's about making open infrastructures to evaluate other things that will help criteria to peer review different contributions. And also the incentives. The reward system will change if we put incentives to do it better peer review. For example, what I mentioned before, recognizing researchers to do peer review, or also incentives for the researchers to open published papers, publish their reviews openly. If you have the incentives, you have the motivation of will to do something happen in science. This is a presentation or a capture of a Forster project. That is an old project already. It was from 2015. But one of the issues that we were discussing at that moment was what is going to be in the essence of open science, and one of the things is peer review. And we have this representation of the kinds of the types of peer review. Blind peer review would not the reviewers and the authors know each other. It's completely blind, but this open a question that the reviewers can say, oh, you are missing a reference that, look what, it happened to be my reference. So this is kind of missing a lot of transparency if it is blind peer review. This is very much discussed, and I'm very happy to discuss this with you. People try to legitimize blind review, but I think blind review is absolutely insane, because at the end of the day, even if you have discipline that is, and of course, if your discipline is very small, you will end up knowing who is the reviewer. I remember once that they evaluate one of my projects, and the reviewer was recommending her publications on my application, and I was just guessing that it was she. So it's very easy to guess who is the person. And if you evaluate the person with the name, I mean, the author's name is known, it's also valuable, because you will know if it is an early career researcher, you will know who it is, you can see the previous work, you can legitimize what it is in the paper or in the grant or in the thesis or whatever. I think the blind review is something that the publishers invented to think that it's more transparent, more fair, but it's not fairer. Also, there is an open peer review when the identities are clear and people can have this open discussion. I love when I know my reviewers and I have an open discussion. I remember once that I submitted a paper of F1000, you know, F1000, which is the platform behind the World Contrast Publication System and behind Open Research Europe system, at least at the beginning. In F1000, I remember that I submitted a paper and I got a review from one of my colleagues, and I called him, and we had such a great discussion over a Zoom conversation that I say to him, I will better put you as a co-author. So it is really motivating a clear academic discussion, very high-level academic discussion. And also, another step on the open peer review is when not the researcher and the evaluator are known each other, but also the result of the review is also published. If it is open, the contribution of the review is a real academic contribution, because if you have to open the report, you will make a big effort on doing well. My main issue when I talk about open science, and probably some of you that you heard me before, I always says that openness is a clear invitation to quality. And let me put you an example. I received an invitation of CoARA, Open Research Europe, to do an evaluation of a paper related to one of the European projects on the European Open Science Cloud that I'm supposed to be knowledgeable. And I know that CoARA has open peer review. What I said is, oh, wow, I don't have time to do an open peer review. I can have a little time to do just a crappy review on the darkness, on the closed system. But if I have to publish a report, I want my evaluation, my report of evaluation, be perfect, because it's the openness of this report is an invitation for me to do it well. Now let's go back to the problem. What I mentioned, that is my perception or my metaphor about the naked emperor. Probably you have heard about the Emperor's New Clothes, which is a story, a tale from Christian Andersen in 19th century, that he was describing the situation of a king or of an emperor, that he wants to have a new cloth. And the seamstress, the people that they were making his dress, his new royal dress, they told him this is a special fabric. But it happened to be that it's not supposed to be seen, this fabric is so amazing that only very clever people can see it. The stupid people cannot see the fabric. So they made the new dress, which was invisible, and the king, the emperor, dressed on that fantastic dress with invisible fabric for the nerds, for the stupid people. And he didn't recognize that he was naked because he didn't want to recognize that he was stupid. So he went out to the parade naked. And one little kid that in my metaphor is an early career researcher, a young PhD student, he said, "Excuse me, but this person is naked." So even though everybody can see that he's naked, the only person that could recognize was an early career researcher. This is what is happening exactly in the current system. We all agree that the system is naked. We all agree that the system is spoiled, but we don't dare to break it out. That's why I'm so reliable in the early career researchers that they want to do open peer review, for example. I have a student, PhD student, that I was with him in a conference in Paris a couple of weeks ago, and he said to me, "No, I want my reviews to be acknowledged. They also want the reviews to be published because it's a way of legitimizing the system." The early career researchers, they want to make open science happen, but it's so in the current seniority system that the Q1s at the journal impact factor is the only indicator that we all just don't recognize that the system is naked. This is what comes to the need of an urgent reform. We need an urgent reform for two main issues. The responsible research assessment is just the top of the iceberg, but behind this responsible research assessment, we are facing two very serious problems. One is that the current assessment process is relying completely in journal-based metrics, and this is having negative effects in the quality and the impact of the research. And alongside with this perverse effect on the quality and the impact of the research, we are creating an affordable publication system. We cannot put more money in the system. It is absolutely unsustainable, unaffordable, and an unhealthy research culture that is driving us to an unsustainable education system. This is the particular perception of the same problem that is done by my friend Pilar Rico from FECIT in Spain. She transformed my metaphor with the iceberg to this volcano metaphor. It's much better because still she puts in the bottom all the things that they are about explode, abusive commercial practices, private digital infrastructures, lack of transparency and reproducibility, lack of coordination among stakeholders. All these problems, they are in the roaring system that is just about to explode. And the result is that the system is about to explode in an unsustainable research and innovation system. And this is becoming a public problem. It's not just a problem that we deal with our individual careers, with our individual publications. It's something that is a public problem for the whole society. And back to the previous problems that I mentioned, that I told you that the current system and the closed peer review and all these citations farms, all these publication closed system is dealing with very unethical practices. For example, here you have some of the recent, in the last couple of years, a researcher who published a study every 2 days. Excuse me? Who can publish a study every 2 days? Not even using artificial intelligence. Actually, he recognized in the paper that he has 176 papers in the last year. But this year, I think I will make more because I'm incorporating ChatGPT and things like that to make more papers. This is insane. Also, this is leading us to the ranking mechanisms. And it happened to be that the highly cited researchers are paid by Saudi Arabia universities. So they put their affiliation in a Soviet, in a Saudi Arabia university. So these universities in Saudi Arabia, they rise their value in the ranking because having a highly cited researcher, something such as stupid and against quality, it rises you the position in the ranking. So also we are in the big times of retractions. This is the case of a Spanish rector, unfortunately, that he got 75 studies retracted for fraudulent practices in the studies weren't reproducible, the studies were very unethical, they copy their own papers and publish them again, etc., etc. This is getting us to these extremely productive outputs and basing just in the publication system is leading us to a very about the publications cost. We've seen that having goal open access, it will be, if you think about around 5-6 years ago when the Plan S was established, it seems that, okay, let's publish and pay for publishing instead of pay for reading. But this was not a business. This lies to the investment on top of the deals of accessing information of spending 1 billion a year in publishing in the big publishers in the open access. This is unsustainable because it's 1 more million of millions, $1 billion or 1,000 millions of euros. It is unaffordable for the system because it's on top of what we already pay for the current transformative agreements. This is the evolution of the academia, and this is why we are here, because it is not about publishing. It's not about publishing of Paris. It's about publishing as frequently as you can, as quantitative as you can do it, 100 papers a year, which is insane and against scientific quality. And also, if you publish in these highly impact factor journals, it might be you will not perish. Let's go back also again to this monetary issue. This is what it was in the news a couple of years ago when Spain started to pay the transformative agreements. And the transformative agreements, it allow universities and public institutions in Spain to pay approximately 45 million of euros a year. Do you know how much research can we do, proper research, with 45 million a year, if we put that in the system, and we lead the publication to the system too? If the thing is that if we have to pay to maintain the current closed system, we have to devote all our endeavors, economic endeavors, on the publication, when this essence of research could not be the publication, but the research itself. So this is also leading us to irreproducible research, what we call research waste, which is one of the fields that I do really want to work more on, the meta research, which is calculating how much money it is waste on research. All these publications that they are lovely funded, but they don't have any effect at all in the current system. So doing good science is really hard, and retraction of high-profile reproducibility studies prompts soul searching. So this is the problem, that the scientific integrity, it is on the discussion, and we have to demonstrate what is the effect of this irreproducible research on this publish without no end, and publish without not mechanisms of getting a real impact in the society. There are millions of papers that they weren't read and they will never be written. So this is why I brought this piece that I put you here, the link in English, where I just was explaining in a normal Spanish newspaper to the society why this is happening. Because we are all victims and also accomplished of the system. So this is what the publications system and the research system should come along with the reform. So let's go now to a bit of more deep on CoARA and why I say that open science led to CoARA, and CoARA led us back to open science and also to open peer review as one of the main concepts related in the big mushroom, in the main framework of open science. Open peer review is super connected with the research reform. So this is what I said, we have the open science for everyone, and we realized that the only way to make open science happen is to have a research evaluation reform, and that's why we want to advance in this reform. And also, if we advance in the research reform, we can talk again about open science practices. If the reward system is not relying on open science practices, we will never have open science as a real target or as a real outcome of our research. And this drives me back in time to 2016. It is 10 years back, when the Amsterdam Call for Action, the Dutch presidency of the Council, that we have this video, and we were talking about, well, this is the moment. Stop talking about open science, and this is the call for action. And what I said at that moment is, if we all agree that we need to change the way we measure science, why we don't do it? It is, if we all see that the emperor is naked, if we all see that the system is unaffordable, is unsustainable, and is making a big problem for science, why we don't do it? So that was 10 years back. But if we think about the work that we have been doing in the open science policy platform, we were in the commission asked to do yet another declaration on research assessment. And I say, no, I'm against another declaration, because it has been more than 130 declarations and recommendations around open science, open data, open software, open access, open knowledge, whatever you want the declaration is. 130. I think that the Barcelona Declaration and the declaration about open monitoring open science, they are 130 and 131 declarations. So we have been doing more than 100 declarations, and all these declarations are what I call always a toast to the sun. We all agree on these principles. We all agree that the peer reviews should be better. We all agree that opening is invitation to quality. We all agree that the emperor is naked, but we don't do it anything. So that's why CoARA came in this connection of make something happen. The difference between CoARA and DORA, that they have 20 years apart, is that DORA is just a declaration that wants to the same principles, abandon the use of journal metrics, give value to different contributions, not only publications. We have the same principles, but the difference is that CoARA wants to have a time frame for change and a real commitment to belong to a coalition that together we will learning by doing, and we will copy our best practices. What it is now in the repository of CoARA action plans is what we want to create a repository of good practices that inspire the people to do it together. Nobody will say the emperor is naked on their own. We need to collectively construct a change. And this is what the community is the big difference of CoARA and DORA. And also we have another difference that I have been discussing this with colleagues of CoARA and DORA last week in the Meta Science Conference in London. We were discussing about why in CoARA we don't accept publishers. We don't accept for-profit organizations. Why? Because never the problem was part of the solution. And at the contrary, DORA has the publishers on board, recognizing the value that they can be stakeholders. But for me, if we want to really spot a change or do something, we really need to have the evaluation only in the hands of the researchers that they perform the research and the citizens that they pay for the research. We cannot imply here any commercial issues, even though you can tell me, oh, we have been doing this all the time based on publishers. Okay, it's the same thing that the photograph was all the time based on the cameras, and Kodak was the main business for making photographs. But now we have a different status quo. We have a mobile phone, and if we have a mobile phone with a camera, we don't need to reproduce our pictures in a roll. So this is a different context, and the value that we have been doing all the time the same, and we rely on the value. No, because we don't need to rely on the publishers, because the quality is in the hands of the researchers. They are not good publishers or good or bad publishers. They are not good journals or bad journals. They are good researchers or bad researchers. And the good researchers are the ones that peer review the contributions and legitimize the value of the research discoveries. So when we think about the CoARA, I always want to underline that is these two things. One thing is the agreement. Of course, the agreement is the toast to the sun. We agree on this, blah, blah, blah. We have these principles, we have these commitments, and we agree upon maximum 5 years to complete, not the reform, the big reform, 5 years to do something, to move a bit forward the wall of research assessment. And also, along with the agreement, we are building the coalition. And the coalition is a way of having mutual learning exercise and having practices that we can exchange and share, and we can communicate progress, because people can be inspired on the community to make things happen. And that's why we have action plans. We have national chapters, because very much sometimes research assessment, it is on the national context. Think about that, even though the publications are international and global, well, let's think, an international global for the countries that they can afford to pay. This is not global and it's not international. It's for the first class world that we can sustain the publication system. But the national chapters, they are the ones that legitimize that part of the research assessment, particularly funding, is very much based on the national budget. I was in the Meta Science Conference last week with a guy from Ghana, from Africa, and he said to me, well, we want to do research, but our national body of research doesn't give us even to publish one paper in open access. We cannot afford research we can even less afford publication. So this is the reality. And also we create in this realm of creating a community, we have been creating working groups that they can analyze deeply some issues that we have to reconsider. And peer review is one of the issues that we are reconsidering in the full context of research assessment. Just, I think that you know this by heart, because they are the commitments, recognizing diversity of contributions, based research not only in quantitative indicators, but also in qualitative evaluation, which peer review is central. This is what I want to underline here, that peer review is one of the core essence, the core elements of the CoARA principles and commitments. And also we aim to abandon the inappropriate use of the journal and publication-based metrics, don't use them. What is, I have heard that the journal impact factor is pervert. No, the perversion is not in the indicator. The perversion is the use that we do of this, and we'll put in the center of evaluation. And also another thing is evaluating, avoiding the use of ranking the research performing organizations. And this is something that relies on the evaluation of institutions. This relies on the evaluation of individuals and contributions, and this relies on the evaluation of institutions. But we have to be honest, and it seems that the evaluation of an institution is the evaluation of the members that they are behind the institution. So if we put in the rankings that having one highly researcher will raise you the position in the ranking, and you can afford, like Saudi Arabia countries, that they can afford to pay a guy to put the affiliation, it's very easy to trick the system. So this is insane. And also we have these support commitments. And one of the things that the 6 support commitments that we have in CoARA, on top of the commit resources, share what you have been doing, share your implementation plan, have evaluation of your practices. One of the things is that make data openly available. Whatever you use for evaluating, it couldn't be a black box of climate, black box of scholars. To make the data openly available is to put the peer review openly available. This is one of the core things that we have to do. But if we think about the bigger scenario, you know all about these declarations, and we have all the same roots and the same commitments and the same things. But also it came to the scenario last year in April, the Barcelona Declaration, that is exactly dealing with this. Put every data, every metadata that you are going to use for evaluation in open. So this also, even though the Barcelona Declaration is more focused on infrastructures and on metadata sharing, we have to think about that part of the Barcelona Declaration could be open research information, and we have to identify that peer review could be an element to be used for the open evaluation. So if you want to tell me that your paper is very good, don't tell me that you managed to publish in Q1, okay? Tell me what the researchers said about your paper. This is an open publication. An open peer review publication can give a lot of insights to make an open research evaluation. Let me share with you some ideas for what I said that is going to be a long journey to reach the responsible research assessment and to lead the research assessment reform that we want, when the open peer review is part of the main issues that we have to consider. Some ideas that we can use to succeed in the reform of research assessment is to embrace international policies and initiatives. This is a clear a clear hope of alignment with the international policies, follow the UNESCO principles, follow the declarations or whatever you want, and align your practices with that. Also, this is a very important issue to institutionally have a commitment on exchange practices with other people, that they are changing the assessment and in an internal basis of the institution. We cannot dream. Well, yes, we dream. I dream about this every night. You cannot dream about changing the whole system, but you can be very conscious what I call the PCIs. When we were in the Open Science Policy Platform, we call this practical commitment for implementation. What can you do, your institution? What is your institutional commitment to do in your evaluation? Perhaps what I say to my colleagues in my university, we might not change the way the Spanish Agency of Research Funding evaluate our proposals, but we can change the proposals that we evaluate at institutional level in the university. So the big thing is when you have a practical commitment for implementation, an individual institutional movement that can make a difference, not waiting for the whole system to change. Also, it is crucial collaboration. That's why I rely so much in the national chapter approach, when the national actors, the national stakeholders come together and cooperate to do the reform. And also, I'm so keen on the collaboration among institutions at the same level, a collaboration in the coalition as such. And also, another key issue to succeed is to have open infrastructures. This is having open data, open metadata, and open peer review as a high-class outcome of the research evaluation that you can reuse for evaluation. And also, of course, we need to train, we need education, we need motivation of the researchers to practice this open science, and to teach people how to practice open science, how to do open peer review. We need to put some educational training courses, and we have to teach early career researchers that, as you know, the early career researchers are ready for open science, but we have to teach all career researchers to impose new behaviors of research. And this is what we have been doing in the Skills for EOS, which is a project that my university is practicing. It's about finishing now in August. And we have been creating a structure, training by service, a training for different levels of researchers, early career researchers, PhD candidates, data stewards. We have to create a well-known class of researchers that they know what they are talking about. And if we want the senior researchers to evaluate based on CoARA principles, we have to tell them and to give them the tools and the knowledge to do this way. And also, another takeaway for succeeding is that the best is an enemy of the good. You can do just a little tiny change and it's good enough. We cannot wait to the best to change the whole system, and it will take us a lot of time. This is one of my favorite slides that you probably, if you have seen me talking about these topics, it is very much on my deck of slides always. That is about what are the motivators of will for academics. I always say that the most sensitive part of the human being, and the researchers are human beings, is the pocket. So if you give them a grant and you ask them to do something, they will do it. So this is something that is a motivator of will, grant and money for doing research, because it's what we need. We need money to do our research, and we accept the conditions for getting that money. Also, there is important to have requirements, and this is what the practices of research assessment comes to the law. For example, in Spain, we have a new scientific law, and we have a strategy for open science, and it is recognizing the law that you have to put all your contributions publicly funded in open access. So if it is required by law, it is a motivator of will. And another motivator of will, even if we don't think so, is rankings. Whatever is the ranking about. The journal citation report is a list of journals by ranking. The highly cited researchers is a list of researchers by ranking. The ranking of universities, Shanghai ranking, is a ranking of institutions. And when you put things in order, somebody is more successful than the others. And this is a motivator of will, but it has a very, very bad effect on the way we do science. And another extra motivator of will is seduction. What I say always that the big changes that we have been incorporated, not only in science, the big changes that we have been incorporating in our behavior, they come by seduction. It's what I call the WhatsApp effect. How many of you use WhatsApp? If we have in a face-to-face meeting, we will be raising your hands, everybody. But do you remember when and why and for what you start using WhatsApp? No, it was imposed by seduction. And seduction, in terms of research, comes with when something is cheap, is easy, and is rewarding. This is the three keys of the seduction. So we can create a system that is easier, that is open, that it is easy to practice, and people will use it by seduction, and nobody will think about it. I talk about this to the previous Director General of the Commission on Research, on charge of all this discussion of the ERA, the European Research Area discussion, and I say, you cannot impose researchers to use the European Open Science Cloud. You can put money, millions and millions there, but the researchers, they will only use it, not when you give money for that, when you give credit for that, or when you give or you require to use it. They will use it, and it will be a system by default when it is imposed by seduction, because it's useful, it's cheap, and it's helpful for research. And this is what we have to aim of changing the research assessment reform. Also, we need new standards to quality. We cannot base only the quality if you are publishing Q1. We have to base quality in reproducibility. That's why we are creating on the Open Science Lab in my university, we are going to lead the Spanish Reproducibility Network. I don't know if you have ever think about creating a Cyprus Reproducibility Network. That would be a good endeavor out of an outcome of Twin for Merit, because there will be a real contribution to create a grassroots movement in the country to people shake papers and shake behaviors to create reproducibility as the main quality issue for publications and for research. And also the open reports. The open report of evaluation could be another standard for quality. Your research is good, no, when you get published. If your research is good, when it comes with a very high level discussion on academic, and it is open, and everybody can legitimize your research by an open discussion in an open report. So what is the value of the open peer review in the CoARA context? Open peer review, for sure, it aligns with CoARA principles. Of course, CoARA is based on transparency, recognition, open data and open metrics, and all these things are in the base of the openness of peer review. Transparency and integrity, recognition of diverse research outputs and processes, because you can apply open peer review to data, for example. Don't base the quality of data on the citation of data, because we are applying the same ridiculous old-fashioned indicator to the data. Apply the open peer review to the data sets, apply the reused, not the citation, but the reuse of the data, and also shift from the opaque metrics to qualitative and contextual review. We don't have only the black box, but the open peer review legitimize what it has been done. What are the key elements of the open peer review in this context of practices promoting transparency, accountability, and academic dialogue? Of course, we have to think about open identities. In my opinion, the reviewer and the author names has to be disclosed, absolutely. We can discuss this afterwards, but we will not convince me. Open reports, publish the review text, and the open report be an evaluated contribution. Open participation, you open the community for comments. Of course, you say no, because if you open the peer review and anybody can comment paper, that would be crazy and you will have trolls and everything, of course. But in the closed system, you have also trolls and you have also bad practices. And the advantage of having it open is that people declare themselves attitudes and they can be self-evaluated with their own behavior. And also the open interaction is what I call you this high-level academic dialogue between authors and reviewers, what really will make a change. If the objective is not to get it published, because now the open dialogue, what I said about the closed peer review that we have now, what it happened is that we are having promoted this dialogue to get published. The only target is to get published. If the reviewer tell me to put another reference, I will put another reference. If the reviewer tell me to run with my hand on the top of my head, I will do it. The only objective is get published. And the objective of the open interaction is constructive science and open high-level academic dialogue. This is what it really promotes. But let's see some of the open peer review infrastructures that they are created. I got the stickers of pre-review. It was in the Meta Science conference last week in London, and I just have the sticker of open peer review in my computer. This is a new platform which you can review preprints, and you can just choose the preprint that you want to review. Of course, this is again a chicken and egg situation. If you don't give me credit to do a review, why I will do it? No way. I do the review journal because I'm in the black bolt system. If I do the review now, my colleague that I'm reviewing now, he will review me. And this is where we are constructing this no transparent kingdom of making papers out. But if you reward me to open for the open reviews that I do, that would be fantastic. So there are other open infrastructures that really rely on open peer review. This is peer community. That is a company, an initiative. I'm not really sure if it is. I don't think it has for profit. It's a not-profit organization when the researchers offer peer review and recommendations for publications, and when the papers are in open access for free. So this is the open peer review, also legitimize or incentivize the open by default publication. This is another open peer, which is another mechanism that I'm not very sure if I agree with that. I had a discussion in one of the health research institutes in the Basque Country last year, that they have a project that they want to reward with economically reward their reviewers, and so it will be an incentive. It is better than do it for free. Of course, as I told you before, the pocket is the most sensitive part of the human being. Of course, it will be a motivation and having money for doing something. It will just motivate a better academic evaluation. But for me, it's not the solution. But I want you to know that they exist. So the models are out there, and they are different things. But also think about this, the new models, the new platform, the new open peer review initiatives. Just think about that even the closed infrastructures, they are now betting for the open peer review. This is clear when Clarivate bought Publons. Did you know that Publons was the biggest no-for-profit organization where you register there and you get points for your open peer review? And they were people that, even though they were not rewarded for that, they have a very, very high portfolio of open peer review as one of the main contributions that they did in their fields. So it was very good. But what happened? That always the big fish eats the little fish. Clarivate bought Publons, and now Publons is part of the black box of the infrastructure of the Clarivate analytics platform. This happened last week, last month on June, and it was also announced by the editor-in-chief of Nature in the Meta Science conference last week, that now Nature, that is one of the main highly reputed publications, Q1, a very blah, 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 recognized. If you publish in Nature, you can just think that you will perish, blah, blah, blah. But now Nature is requiring transparent peer review to the research papers. So from this month, from July, Nature will be a campaign with every publication will be a complaint with the whole report when they are replicating the rigorous process of evaluation. So if you publish that, you will never see a stupid comment like, this paper should be reviewed by a native speaker, or this paper should cite my publication. People will be very conscious that this review is going to be public. And again, my big principle or my big mantra of this talk, that is, openness is an invitation to quality. So even Nature relies on open peer review. Okay, it's something that legitimizes open peer review. And for sure, we have pure open peer review infrastructures. As I mentioned before, Open Research Europe, that is the platform, is not a journal, and it is not a normal publication venue. It is a platform for published European research. What is happening now is that Open Research Europe, based on the whole research assessment reform, based on the declaration that it was done under the Sweden presidency on the council a couple of years ago, all these things is opening up this platform for different member states to use this as a venue to publication. And of course, Open Research Europe is pure open peer review. I told you, when I was invited to do a review, I said, I don't have time to do a proper review for Open Research Europe. I have time to do just a stupid review and say, you need a native speaker to review your paper and cite my paper. This is when I could afford to do it. But if I have to do a scientific enough, qualitative peer review in the open, I have to do it very well. So this is how Open Research Europe works. So you have here, the peer review is published. So the preprint without any review is published straight away. Then you have the peer review also visible for all the contributors. And when the peer review is finished and the final version is published, this peer review is published in the platform, the final version, but also is by default sent to the institutional repositories. So we are not only creating metadata for this infrastructure, but creating metadata for the national infrastructures. So this is a main issue, that also the open peer review can fuel the open metadata to create open infrastructures for review. This is how it works, and this is the main issue on open peer review at the article level. The expert reviewers are selected and invited, and the reviews, names, and reports are put together with the author's responses and comments from the registered users. So this is a clear, open dialogue that it was underneath the idea of peer review, but this is, again, rescuing the real high-level dialogue among researchers. And of course, let me just share with you this initiative that I was aware last week. One of my former colleagues that I worked with him in the European Commission evaluation, he told me that he was creating this new tool that he wants us in the Open Science Lab to test, because it's supposed that artificial intelligence will help open peer review. And excuse me, this is, you don't need yet another platform to do so. Use machine learning to reject from desk. All these scientific approaches for the publication are based on the research assessment. And in this research assessment is based on artificial intelligence. My concern is that if we are creating a science that is done by artificial intelligence, is reviewed by artificial intelligence, and is published by artificial intelligence, my question here is, what is the value of the paper anymore? We probably need another way to communicate and to evaluate science from scratch, not just reform the way we do peer review, just reform the way we use indicators. No. Instead of having papers, probably having contributions that you have to do. Or how can you fake contributions, and how many questionable research practices is generating artificial intelligence in this world? Not in the world of the research, in the world of the open peer review. And the open peer review lies on the research, questionable research practice, but also relies on the questionable publication practices. So this is a high level topic for research, meta research for a better science. Okay, let's go to the final thoughts. And let me reward you with our first slide on the UFERIN calendar that we did in UFERIN project. And let me just, again, underline my mantra of this talk. Openness is an invitation to quality. But also, if science is not open, it's not going to help us. It's like a parachute. If it is not open, it doesn't work. So this has been really clear when you have COVID pandemic, and we need real-time science. We cannot wait for the system to get published. We need real solutions in real time. So the current peer review process is not compliant with the needs of the new society. Climate change, new pandemic, a lot of new endeavors, they need science in real time. And we need to come up with the open peer review, open evaluation, and open publication. And this is all from my side. Stay updated in CoARA's progress. Now we are just about publishing the new CoARA Boost cascading funding for new projects to do different approaches in institutions to move forward, but keep supporting CoARA and keep supporting the responsible research assessment, and have an eye of the Senado community of how we can do the copy new initiatives, indicators, and the new research that is based not only on journal impact factor, but also in reproducibility, in open peer review, and other things. Thank you very much. I'm super happy to have a discussion, comments, questions with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear Eva. Thank you for this excellent presentation. Zacharias has a question.
Okay, just Zach, go ahead.
Let me unmute him. Zacharia, please unmute your mic. It's allowed right now. Zacharia, we can't hear you. You have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, you have permit now. Yes. Go ahead, Zach.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for the excellent presentation. I guess I'm just going to recite a few points about our fruitful interaction within Twin for Merit and a little bit indirectly CoARA and the other platforms. Although we stand a little bit on a slightly different opinions. So in some sense, we affect each other and we converge to that in the end. So first of all, I would just like to note to our, to the Twin for Merit and other people here that it's a very interesting research question, the question of open science. There's a relatively long history of randomized controlled trials that test open science. So it's an open question, it's an open scientific question, which are the advantages and disadvantages of open peer review, for instance. And with quite some interaction with John Ioannidis, has been informing me of quite this remarkable agenda. So, all I have to say is that this is an agenda of a few decades old and continuing, where journals try to understand best practices that they should be following, especially in biomedicine. At least going back to the first International Congress on peer review in 1989, and I think it would be great, if one could have a look at this agenda and see the findings. In my opinion, we should, of course, not take forever to make changes, but as scientists, we should do a careful cost-benefit analysis of potential policies. To some degree, that's our job like economists, so it's natural that I think this way. Anyway, so it seems that from a relatively fast look into the literature, open peer review, the anonymity of peer review doesn't seem to have particularly strong effects in terms of quality, time taken, and recommendation. And in some sense, this is good news for Eva if she, from an ideological point of view, not a cost-benefit point of view, she thinks that for its own right, openness is good, which I understand. And so from a neutral point of view, if the state of affairs was similar, why not have open? I completely understand that. So if it doesn't do harm, if it doesn't change things in a negative way, such as the willingness of people to do review, then absolutely. So yeah, it is a relatively old literature, in my opinion. It needs to go get expanded to different disciplines and time frames. I'm not 100% sure that this is the way to proceed in the absence of evidence. So, and the other aspect that I'm more skeptical with Eva is the relatively strong, sometimes, although it gets improved in my opinion, stance by some CoARA members against quantitative metrics. And we've done recent work with John, we've done conferences, and we try to bridge the gap a little bit to generate more heat more light rather than heat from this interaction about the appropriate use of quantitative metrics rather than rejection of quantitative metrics. And of course, what quantitative metrics do is they summarize the peer review, because at the end of the day, peer review was behind already the publication outcome. So it doesn't substitute, of course, peer review. Peer review is the foundation. What it avoids is a repetition of peer review, and of course, this has advantages and disadvantages. So there, and then of course we are part of the responsible assessment group in CoARA, and we have interesting discussions. Again, we're trying to talk to them about our framework with John, and affect the discussion a little bit there to find things in the middle ground. And I don't think that CoARA should be viewed as an enemy of bibliometrics and quantitative metrics. It's a tool, and we should be using it appropriately. Okay, so I think these sort of stated views are not, completely novel. I think we've discussed it before, but of course, in such a presentation, I think it was useful for me to recite them. I don't want to take any more time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Zach. I know that you are more on quantitative approaches, and I think we have this discussion many times, that the problem is not, the problem is how to use them. And they are evaluative metrics and evaluative approaches, but also now we can do it better. It's not about eliminate completely the journal impact factor, that I would be very happy to eliminate it completely because I believe that we can do better metrics based on quantitative aspects, because sometimes what is this sentence of the sociologist, the British sociologist, that says that things that count cannot be counted, and things that we count don't count. That's the point. Sometimes the problem is that we count what we can. If we had good metadata for example, social impact factor, or we have good metadata to build up indicators, we can build up quantitative metrics for everything. So that's why we have to be conscious that the researchers, we have to construct a new system that we are the owners of the metadata that we want to use to be evaluated. So this is about to the research community, not to the for-profit institutions, and pay them and they have to tell us what we should be evaluated for. So that's why I think there is a lot of room for meta research on demonstrating which indicators could be better, of demonstrating which databases, which metadata collection we can create out of the production that we do, and put artificial intelligence as a key issue, on benefit of the researchers, not on benefit of the publishers. So I think we have a lot of room to do meta research, and I hope to do it together with you. Thank you, Zach.
Thanks a lot for your response, Eva.
Anyone else that would like to share a question with Professor Mendes?
We can be also connected by mail. We are all members of the same project, and I hope I will have many other projects together. And I just want to put you on your table the idea of creating a reproducibility network for Cyprus. That may be another way to support new mechanisms of qualitative assessment or the real value of science, which is when you can reproduce studies and when you have to do these kind of things appropriately. That may be a good opportunity. Since we are in Spain creating this, we can help each other to do it. Also, I have a very nice conversation with the other reproducibility networks. For example, there are very much advanced reproducibility networks like Danish network or Norwegian, or I'm thinking on the Brazilian, for example, that even Brazil, Australia, they have very strong, UK, very strong reproducibility networks, but others that we are newcomers in this new scenario of meta research and meta science. that would be a good opportunity for you guys to do it as an outcome of the Twin for Merit based on the partners of UC3M that we are creating and do it together. Maybe an idea?
Yeah, that's an idea, and we can also discuss that at the upcoming conference in September, and summer school also, which will take place.
I will not be there in person.
Yeah.
I will be there in person in the conference, but please count on me, or even, for example, you can invite Alexander, which is the guy who created the yes, the reproducibility network for Ukraine. I didn't come the country with me. And they are just creating a reproducibility network and rising belief in science in the middle of the war. It will be an amazing experience.
Thank you. Marios?
Eva, firstly, let me wholeheartedly thank you for this excellent webinar. We have been waiting for it quite some time. It was worth the wait. So thank you very much for delivering this inspiring talk once again. And it's great because I've seen your talks a few years and they're always updated with the most recent developments. And I love that because you're never, I mean, I never get bored. I always learn new things, even though I don't think I've missed one of your webinars. So thank you very much for that. I will answer because I think Zach cannot, that Zach and the team are participating in a project for reproducibility called iRise, which actually is a reproducibility network Europe-wide, whereby I think we have discussed again the possibility of creating a reproducibility network for Cyprus. So it's something that was in our minds for quite some time. But Zach may, if he can at some point, inform us of the developments within the iRise project. It's funded under the wide ERA. It's under the reproducibility priority from the ERA side. So I think Zach is in the working on the cutting edge of things there. He can let us know what's going on. I'm actually also curious to know whether there's any development. Regarding your talk, Eva, and the recent developments I mentioned, I read that Nature is implementing now this hybrid kind of open report that they don't reveal the names, but they reveal the content. And I wanted to ask you and any other participants that have experienced this process, do you think that this new approach mitigates the things a bit, in the sense that we know your experience with Open Research Europe, that you have also experienced that you submit and then you get the suggestions and you cannot take the article back. So this is a bit of a problem. But what happens with these open reports? I cannot hide that the impression that I have is a positive one, that the things are out there, even though it's an anonymous report, you still cannot write, you cannot confuse the readers. The ones that are scientifically solid can understand if this is a good report or not. I just wanted to know what you think, whether this kind of solution is a better one than the two extremes of hiding or opening up everything.
This is a very good question, Marius. But I think the point about opening the report, even though it is not quantifiable, because you open the report, and it's again, we cannot base quality on 0 to 1. You open your data. Oh, good researcher. No, excuse me. Are your data fair? Are your data good? Are your data curated? What is the point about opening up your data? You open your publication is open, you are a good researcher. It's not a question 0-1. It's a question of a mechanism of quantifying that. For me, opening up the research evaluation reports, whatever they are, I mean, the grant evaluation, the evaluation, whatever it is a transparency mechanism, which is one of the values of the public good. It's the first step. And then if you open it up, things, and they are in the kingdom of the web, we can create metadata to evaluate that things. So the point is that it's the first step. Why I'm so adamant that people put the papers on the repositories, in the institutional, the national repositories. I had this discussion with the librarians in my university and in the Spanish Agency of Evaluation. No, but what is the point about putting the metadata in the repository if we don't have open the paper? Because you are getting control of the metadata. 100% of the metadata, 80% of the publication give the researchers control about what we want to measure. If we have all the open review, imagine this thing about, imagine that Open Research Europe or Open Research World or Open Research Platform was the only platform to put research. And we build up an international system that we can rely on all the outputs that we put there. We can create elements to evaluate those open peer review. And also the peer review will be quality or not. It's not what happened in Pablons at the beginning. I was in Pablons for a long time. I do open review. Okay, you do open review. This is not a guarantee of that you do it well. So we need to qualify. But for me, opening up the reports and not opening up the identities of the people is the first step to control and qualify the quality of the reviews and make the reviews the open dialogue and the constructive and collaborative science that I believe.
Thank you, Eva. So my feeling was correct. Okay. Thank you for this conclusion. It puts the pieces of the puzzle in my head in their place. So thank you very much for that, for the inspiring talk, for all the insights that you always provide. I don't know if we have any questions from the other participants, any insights, any comments? Eva, you have explained and articulated everything so well that no other further questions are there.
You know that I love to discuss, but that's no point. And this is a very tricky point of discussion. So, but I'm very happy that since we are in the same project and we believe in meta research to improve the system, let's keep working together on improving the system. Cyprus system, Spanish system, and all the scientific worldwide system.
Yeah. Thank you, Eva. And I have to say, I'm privileged to be in the middle of great scientists working on meta research. Even they have slightly different views, is what Zach said, that you converge in the end. Yeah, and that's amazing because, good science unites great research teams. So I'm privileged to be in the middle of that. I'm sure all other project participants that work with you and the teams. So thank you very, very much again for this excellent webinar. It's important to say to the participants that the webinar will be available from the website of the project. We wouldn't have supported open science otherwise, right? It will be there, openly available. And I know a few colleagues could not make it today that they want to actually see it later, watch it later. So it's great, Eva, to have you again with us and present all these amazing insights. Hopefully there will be good follow-up to this webinar, where you get some questions in your inbox, or ideally some other suggestions for further collaboration.
Happy to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eva. Pablo, shall we conclude? Do we have any other process to proceed?
I'm totally fine, and we would like to thank again Professor Eva Mendez for this exceptional webinar. Thank you very much, Eva. And
thank you, Pablo,
for being here with us today.
Thank you, colleagues. Pleasure.
Thank you, dear colleagues. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you in our next webinars. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.